Okay, hey everybody, again, my name is Brian and I just make some videos on my reptiles. I was into reptiles growing up for many years, probably my first 25 years of my life. I got into reptiles and owned all kinds of different snakes, boas and savanna monitors and ferrets and all kinds of just different snakes, probably 20 different kinds of snakes and, probably, 10 different kinds of lizards, all the way from small to quite large, a quite large iguana, about 5.5 feet, all kinds of pets. But with the pandemic, I was watching YouTube and I got into watching a couple of YouTubers that are involved with reptiles, and it really got me back into wanting to raise reptiles and have a couple. So one of those pets that I wanted to get, because I knew a girl when I had my 9-foot Burmese python in college. I knew a girl that had 2 boas, and both of her boas were about 7 feet long. They were quite large and they were such cool snakes compared to my Burmese python. And so I always wanted to someday have a boa. And so I got my Nicaraguan boa, and let me just explain real quick. I didn't want to get a large snake or a snake that had the potential to get large again, because I had that with my Burmese python, and when he got up to the 9-foot mark, he was a very sweet snake. I trusted him 100%. He never bit me as he got larger. I got bit once, but when he was probably 4 feet, and it was my fault, so not his fault. But sweet snake, never bit me, never temperamental, great snake, but I just couldn't justify keeping him anymore because it was hard to find a place to keep him, and I was just had my mind on other things, as I started to go through college and started to get older and started getting closer to graduating. So I got rid of him. This is my Nicaraguan boa, and I bought him specifically because he is not going to get large. A male and a female. I think the largest is the male, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I could be wrong, could be the female, but the largest they will get is 5 feet, and most of them will be about 4.5 feet. And so that's why I got that. Maximum size of a snake for me today is probably in the 4 to 5 foot range, maybe 6 foot. So that's why I got this Nicaraguan boa. He's really like a dwarf boa. So without talking more, getting to the point, this is what I keep him in. He's in a terrarium because I wasn't going to pay $250 for one of those specialty, ones that sit up a little more right and have the doors on them but have the screens on the side, which are ultimately better for holding humidity and, specialized, for reptiles. This is a pretty good cage that I got, and I got it on sale. That's about $120 regular price, and I got this one for $49.99, and it's a 40 long and a 1.5 wide, and I think a 1.5 tall. It's actually a really good a terrarium. It's not an aquarium, but a terrarium, and it's got a custom fit top on it. So let me pull him out real quick. I will say, I had one guy just comment. I don't have a lot of viewers for my reptiles. One guy commented and said thank you for my video, that they bought a little Nicaraguan boa for their family and they really love their Nicaraguan boa, and they appreciated my video. If one person likes my video, then it's really worth making the videos. That's all I need, is just one person. But I have fun making videos. My boa does not like to be in the heat and prefers it about 79 degrees. When the lights are on, he typically goes and hides at different times. And so I turn it on just to keep the cage or the terrarium about 85 degrees, and he likes to hide out under his little wood piece of bark that I put right there. I do have a pad under there, a large pad, probably that long and about that wide, and it's on a not a timer, but monitors the heat, so I can adjust that. And I've got that set at about 92, because if I turn that up any really hotter, it draws him out, and he'll go into a corner. He typically always hangs out in a corner up here, a corner down here, or over here. One time last maybe 4 days ago, I saw him in the water, and I mean, that was amazing. I've never seen him in the water. And he has shed. I got him about 3.5 months ago, maybe. Yeah, 3.5 months ago is what I'm thinking. And he has shed one complete shed, and I obviously have a little heat and humidity little gauge. It's ZoomEd. It's a cheap little piece, but I mean, I'm hoping it works pretty well. I keep his humidity, about 60, between 60 and 70. Every now and then it'll drop below 60, but then I just spray a little bit of water in there. I've got the coconut husk in there, and it will retain the water, and I've got some moss, some sphagnum moss that hangs there, and that soaks up the water pretty good. So just that much squirting raises that back up to 75, 80 at night. But when we turn these lights off, I can talk and talk and talk, and I need to get the reptile out. So I do have a heat gun for testing parts of the cage to see where it is, but honestly I can say that this snake likes it about 77 to 79 at night, and maybe 83 during the day. That's just what I can tell, and I've got a pretty good vibe about my reptiles. But this is a heat gun. Everyone should have one of those. See, this pulls off, this little terrarium pulls off, and it secures really, really well, and it clips in the back so they're not getting out. This little guy probably could be a pretty good escape artist, but he's really good. I got him when maybe he was only 2 or 3 weeks old. He was little, and I got a picture that I'll show you here. I mean, I think this was the second day that I had him, and I took him out of the box. So here's the picture of that. I don't know what size he was because I didn't measure him then. It probably would have been a good idea to measure him, but he's growing really, really slowly. But I'm feeding him. I'm kind of power feeding him. I'm feeding him every 2 weeks a mouse. I've given him one live mouse, and he just devoured that up. And then I've been giving him frozen mice. I've just been buying at the local Petco or PetSmart. I started out with the little pinkies, and then and then I transitioned to the fuzzies, and that's kind of where we're at right now, because his head's not very big, and his little neck portion is not that big. But let me get him out, and he might be a little PO'd because he likes to be under his little cover, but he's generally a really, really good snake. He doesn't strike a lot. If you really bother him and you startle him, and he doesn't want to be picked up, I mean, maybe once or twice, then he could be a little striky, but he's so small. But then I'll always get something, and just anything that I have, and just touch him, and that just lets him know. He'll flicker his tongue, and and he'll know. I just don't even want to be bit by a foot-long one. It's just the startling, of them striking at you and you jumping back. I'm not a big fan of that. But I still will jump, even though I know it's coming. I just touch him. That's just general good purpose. Getting used to doing that. Just touch him with something. Just let him know. You don't know not to touch his head. He just knows he's going to get picked up, and he's not being real freaky or anything. So then I don't ever come at him from the front. I just always come at him from the back and just touch him, and he'll usually turn around and smell me, flick his tongue, smell me, and then I'll just pull him out. He's a really pretty snake, so I just don't have the best of light in my house, and it's kind of cloudy outside, but here he is. Let me see. I may have to move some things around. Hopefully you can see him well now. He's really pretty colored. My light's not going to do him any justice. Really pretty snake, and I've always liked the boas because they get a little orange and a little red near the end, and then they lack a little bit more color up towards the middle part to the head. And what's really, really cool, and I always liked, is my other snakes had more rough scales, and the boas have more of like a leather. It's real smooth, and I always liked that about the girls' snakes in college. is they had you couldn't feel the scales, and the boa has more rougher, or my Burmese python has more rough scales. You could actually get under them and pick them up with your nail. But another good thing about that you may not be aware of, that the Nicaraguan boas, like I said, I've had him now maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, and I've probably fed him 10 mice, and he very, very rarely poops. I've only seen him poop once or twice, and I picked it up, and it's not very big. So all those mice he's eaten, he's digested a lot of those mice. Very, very interesting about that he rarely poops. My Burmese python pooped all the time, and it was super messy. But also, too, he was quite a bit larger, and so maybe I only remember when he was large, and I fed him, large prey, like big rabbits and things like that, that it was really, really messy and really dirty and really, really stinky. His is just very, very minimal. Such an easy snake to keep. I can forget about him for a week and not even pick him up. And so it's a good idea that you pick them up more, and you let them smell you and just interact and let them hang on you. These Nicaraguan boas, as compared to maybe other boas, they really hang on, and they will. When I pick him up, he loves to wrap around pretty tight around my hand, or so that he doesn't fall. It's very easy because he's so smooth that if he doesn't have a grip of something, he can fall to the ground, and that's not good for snakes or for reptiles to fall. If it's, they can fall a little distance, but if it's 5 feet or 4 feet to the ground, it's not a good thing to drop them. So he grabs on really, really well, and his little tail at the last part, will really wrap around, so he can just hang from the back of his tail. So really cool snake. Hopefully you can see him. I'm not going to be able to get the greatest images in my house. His head is pretty small, as you can see by, the size of my hand. Here's my thumb. He's just not very big, and he's growing very, very slowly. I think he has shed a complete shed once, and I went into his cage and lifted up the bark piece that he sits under, and there his skin was all in one piece, a perfect shed. So moisture is working out pretty well, and I'm assuming everything's going really, really well with him. Let me keep him in there, man. I'll get some close-ups of him. He is really, really cool. And the thing is, if you don't want a big snake and a snake that's going to grow big quickly, this is the snake to get. And that's exactly what I wanted to get, and I got him. He could grow a little bit faster. In a year of me owning him, he's probably only going to be, another 6 inches from this. But I'm going to put him up against a wall and let him stretch out, and then I'll measure him while I have him on video. And you can see he hangs on really, really well, but he's not like a colubrid snake that's just going a mile a minute. He's very chill and doesn't need to be super, super active, but he's a lot better than a ball python. I had about a 4-foot ball python in college. I actually had 2, and they just didn't really do it for me. The boa and the ball pythons just didn't do it, and I'm just not that interested in ball pythons, and so the boa is the route that I want to go. So beautiful snake, very good temperament, not hard to keep. If you just follow kind of what I said, temperature wise and humidity, and I will, as it gets cold outside, I will move him into a small room that I can keep at a steady, probably 82 degrees, and the rest of the house is not going to do that, because he doesn't like a lot of UVB light, and I haven't had any real super background with those heat emitters, ceramic heat emitters. A lot of people have said they don't like those, to stay away from them. So I just kind of have in my head a negative vibe with those ceramic heat emitters, with a little bit more bulbous end, with a ceramic end on it that just kind of radiates heat down on them. It may be something that's super cool and something I need to take advantage of, and it's just something I'm not doing. But other than that, yeah, let me put him up against the wall and angle the camera down, and I'm going to get my little ruler out and we'll measure him. Like I said, with him being on the floor, he may be a little unhappy that he's on the floor because he's used to being on me or in his cage or on a limb, so he may be a little vulnerable. I've never just put him on the floor before, but let me get my ruler. Let's see if he'll straighten out. Maybe I can tap him. I don't really want to piss him off. Okay, hopefully he's so small he almost disappears in that frame. Oh, see, I'm jumpy. I've never had him just on the floor. He doesn't look like he's going to straighten out. He's at least probably, 21 inches. I think that's probably best to call him at 21 inches. Sorry, that was a little lackluster. Trying to get him to straighten out, but because he will really squirm up on me and get tightly up into hanging on to me. I'm really happy that I have him. I think I got this one a couple weeks old from Florida, from a pet store there, and he was $169, so a pretty good value compared to some of the other different types of boas that can be $300, $400 and as babies. So this one was captive bred, or I was told and guaranteed that he was captive bred. So you kind of have to just go on what the breeder says. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with him. He's healthy. Now I'll share this real quick. When I just got him, and he was a couple of weeks old, I wanted to start feeding him mice, and he would not eat the thawed out mouse, a frozen mouse, and then you thaw them out. I put that in there and he wasn't interested in it. And so then I had to feed that couple of those mice with me trying to feed it to him and him rejecting them. I fed them to my tegus. So finally, about maybe a month in, he wasn't eating, and I started to get a little worried about him. So I went on YouTube and I found out how to force feed a snake. It seems like it's pretty scary to do, but it was actually pretty simple. And I force fed him very carefully and fed him his mouth, got the mouse halfway in and then set him down gingerly. And then he proceeded to eat the mouse. He didn't spit it up. And then from then on, he's been really, really solid eating frozen and thawed out mice, just laying them in there. And then when he bites the mice and wraps them up, I get my some little pokey device or a little tool that I have, and I poke in there and I move the mouse like the mouse is fighting, and he'll tighten it more and he'll squirm and coil around it more, and I'll kind of make it look like the mouse is fighting, and then just making it so it's not just dropping a dead mouse in there. I will want to start feeding him live mice, and I'm raising more mice myself, because I think me monitoring and raising my own mice and feeding them live is more stimulating. Plus the mice are going to be healthier. I know what I'm feeding them and how I'm taking care of them, and my mice will look plump and fat and juicy, where the frozen ones look all emaciated, and they don't look very healthy. Obviously they've been frozen and stuff, and that does change the way they look, but when they're thawed out, they look really limp and not a lot of meat there. So I think it's going to be really good for him to start eating my homebred live mice. And then I've got those babies on the way, about 15 babies that are being raised right now. But other than that, yeah, I force fed him, and just to finish that up real quick, I just easily got his mouth open, run the rear end of the mouse up to hit the front of his mouth, and then just kind of push it in there, and his lower jaw will open, and then you just with either some tweezers or something to hold the mouse, you just push it into his mouth as his mouth kind of opens up and his mouth kind of expands, and then you get it enough in there where once the mouse is in there, it's pretty hard for him to expel that mouse, and all then he does is then grabs onto it and then, you know, rolls it in and pulls it in, and really fast. I've made a video of him eating a baby frozen thawed out mouse, and I'll include that at the end of the video. But other than that, video's long enough. Sorry that I made it too long. I can always talk way too long, but I appreciate you tuning in. If you like this content, consider, you know, liking and even subscribing. I'm going to be doing lots of reptile content, boa and tegu related, because that's the 3 reptiles I own. And then I'm going to stick with it. I'm not getting any more reptiles. This is plenty to own and maintain. They keep me very busy, at least the tegus do. So other than that, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you, and have a great day. Bye-bye. Just wanted to show this picture real quick. I have the tree in my front yard. I don't know what kind of tree it is. I used to know what it was, but I put the snake out there in some sun and let him have some fun outside, and he will crawl up this tree, and he blends in so well with this local tree here in Texas. And so he kind of perfect camouflage, or pretty close to perfect camouflage, of him climbing up the tree. I thought it was just interesting and wanted to share.